everyone. Today I'll be presenting on the topic Unpacking when and how customer involvement as co-developer affects supply new product performance with a Canadian business perspective. This paper unpacks a puzzle. Customer involvement sometimes helps innovation and sometimes it doesn't. I'll explain the theory, the mechanisms, the boundary conditions, and practical takeaways managers can use to design successful co-development programs. Let's start with the research question and the core concepts. Why study customer co-development? Because companies frequently invite customers into their new product development processes, from beta testing to joint design workshops, and yet prior research shows mixed outcomes. Some studies find strong benefits and others find neutral or negative effects. Zafiri and al. Wanted to explain this variability. They ask, when does customer involvement improve supplier product performance and how does that affect operate? A central contribution of the paper is demonstrating that the relationship is non-linear. Customer involvement helps up to a point, but beyond that point, performance can decline. The paper also shows there are mediating mechanisms, primarily knowledge sharing and relational quality, and moderators such as trust, shared vision, social interactions, and supply market experience that shape this curve. So, the story doesn't always involve customers. It's involve them the right way, in the right context, to the right extent. Next, I'll define the core concepts we all share in the same language. There are two core ideas. First is the customer as co-developer. This is more than soliciting feedback. It means deep bilateral collaboration where customers act as partial members of the development team, sharing tacit use knowledge, domain expertise, and sometimes financial resources or test environments. Co-developers typically participate across multiple development stages rather than just an ideation or testing. And secondly, new product performance. The paper treats this as multidimensional: revenue and profitability, market share, product quality, speed to market, and the customer satisfaction. That means an intervention can raise one metric while lowering another. For example, heavy customer input might improve market fit, but slow speed to market. That's why the authors look at net performance of outcomes rather than a single measure. Now, let's unpack what co-development looks like in practice. In practice, co-development involves a bidirectional flow. Suppliers bring engineering, manufacturing, and integration capability. Customers bring domain knowledge, use cases, and constraints from real operations. That flow produces two important things: shared responsibility. Both parties are invested in the outcome. And the second one is active participation, where customers contribute to priorities, features, and acceptance criteria. Operationally, this can be a formal partnership and looser collaborations. The key is that the relationship is strategic. The supplier picks customers whose needs align with the long-term product strategy, so their input is useful and not distracting. Now, let's look at the mechanisms that turn involvement into results. Because performance is multifaceted, managers must track several outcomes. So the first one is financial success. They must monitor the early revenues and margins. Like, did the product recoup development cost? For the market share, does the product capture and hold a different customer segment? And for the speed of the market, how fast did the product move from prototype to launch, especially in the fast-moving markets? And for the quality of the product, does it meet reliability and functional standards? And for the customer satisfaction, does the product satisfy the co-developer and broader customer base? The research emphasizes that co-development influences these dimensions through intermediate processes. Let's examine those next. So, there are two mechanisms which are central. The first one is the sharing of the knowledge, and the second one is the relational quality. So, according to Zyfer et al., he showed that customer involvement affects product outcomes indirectly, mainly via knowledge sharing and quality relation. Let's unpack each. For the knowledge sharing in co-development, suppliers gain explicit knowledge. Specs, measurable requirements are crucially tacit knowledge. Tacit knowledge gained through close collaboration can lead to design insights that formal market research misses. But tacit knowledge is hard to capture and requires absorptive capacity on the supplier side, the ability to recognize, assimilate, and apply external knowledge. The relational quality covers trust, communication frequency, and commitment. When relational quality is high, partners resolve conflicts constructively, share the sensitive information, and align on priorities. Good relationships speed decision-making and reduce defensive behavior that hides problems. So, involvement pays off because it improves what we know and how we work together. But only when the supplier can absorb the knowledge and the relationship is managed well. There are risks if knowledge or relationship processes break down. We will get into those when we discuss the inverted U effect. Now, let's go deeper on knowledge. Explicit knowledge includes technical specs, test results, or formal requirements. Things you can document and pass on. And the tacit knowledge is subtler. The operator's intuition about failure modes that workaround customers use, or the situational preferences that don't make it into requirement documents. Tacit knowledge is often the source of breakthrough ideas. However, exploiting tacit knowledge requires absorption. Firms need people who can translate customer stories into engineering requirements, and governance to ensure the inputs are prioritized. If a supplier lacks absorptive capacity, for example, no experienced product owners or weak research and development processes, then even excellent customer input adds noise rather than clarity. Practically, mechanisms such as joint prototyping sessions, shadowing customers on site, and embedding a customer liaison in the product team help convert tacit into usable knowledge. The paper's evidence shows knowledge sharing is a key pathway from involvement to better product outcomes when leveraged properly. Moving on to the next slide, relational quality lubricates collaboration. Trust encourages openness so customers disclose real problems. Frequent communications keep teams aligned. Joint problem solving means both parties co-design solutions rather than trading demands. But the paper highlights relational quality has complex effects depending on how much customers are involved. Trust makes early collaboration more effective, and partners share critical insights easily. Yet, when involvement becomes extreme, high trust can paradoxically mask governance gaps. For example, there may be unclear decision rights, which can worsen coordination problems. So, relational quality is essential, but it must be paired with clear roles, governance, and conflict management processes. So far, we have covered how involvement works. Now we will cover when it helps the most. The central empirical insight of the paper is that the benefits of customer co-development depend on context. So there are three contingency factors which matters the most. The first one is the technological uncertainty. Is the underlying technology new or stable? And the second in line is the market uncertainty, as customer needs and demand volatile. So are they meetable? And the third is the supply capabilities. Does the supplier have technical, marketing, and absorptive capacity? Most importantly, the relationship between co-development intensity and product performance is inverted U-shaped. Moderate involvement helps, extreme involvement harms. Let's look at each contingency more deeply. First is the technological uncertainty. When technological uncertainty is high, meaning the right technical approach isn't settled, customer co-developers who are lead users or who operate in the target context can provide early signals about viable technical directions. Their hands-on use cases help suppliers decide architecture choices, trade-offs, and required performance parameters. But when technology is well understood, additional customer involvement yields diminishing returns and can introduce needless complexity. For example, multiple customers asking for slightly different technical variants. So the guidance invests in deeper co-development when the technology landscape is unclear. Scale it back when the technical path is established. Next is the market uncertainty. So under market uncertainty, rapidly changing tastes, new regulatory requirements, or unpredictable demand, customer co-development serves as a market radar. Co-developers provide near real-time validation of features and pricing experiments, helping suppliers pivot quickly. However, high involvement by many customers can fragment product focus and delay commercialization. The author's findings suggest targeting involvement to representative strategically aligned customers rather than opening the floodgates to all comers. That preserves decision speed while still benefiting from market intelligence. Now we will be considering the supplier's capabilities. A supplier's internal capabilities moderate whether customer input becomes performance. Technical capability is required to translate ideas into feasible designs. Marketing capability is required to position the resulting product, identify early adopters, and scale adoption. Absorptive capacity is like people and processes that recognize, interpret, and apply external knowledge, ties it all together. If capabilities are weak, co-development may generate promising ideas that the supplier cannot exploit, causing time, to market delays or compromised quality. The practical implication: invest in capability building like training or cross-functional product teams, research and development processes before ramping up co-development intensity. Now let's integrate these pieces into a single model. Here's the integrated framework. Customer co-development drives knowledge sharing and relational quality, which in turn influence new product performance. The strength and shape of those links depend on technological and market uncertainty and on supplier capabilities. Empirically, Zephyr and al. Founded Inverted U for the direct relationship and showed that moderators like shared vision and market experience change the curve slope. A key managerial takeaway is that the same co-development practice can be beneficial in one context and harmful in another. It all hinges on these mediators and moderators. So, what should managers actually do? Let's move to practical implication. So, the managers should select customers strategically. They should prioritize lead users and those aligned with long-term goals. And they should also limit the number of code developers for any product to avoid fragmentation. And there should be a defined governance. There should be clear decision rights, escalation rules, and a single product owner to prioritize the inputs. And the managers should also invest in absorptive capacity, where they should be giving training and then prototyping the capabilities. And the measurement should be taken early and often, like they have to track the time of the market, the number of change requests, and correlation between customer feedback and post-launch performance. These steps keep co-development on the productive side of the inverted U. And for the managerial implications, the original study used a sample of Chinese suppliers working with foreign customers, so cultural and institutional factors may affect how directly we generalize to other contexts. Also, not every dimension of social capital mattered. For example, frequency of social interactions alone didn't guarantee better outcomes. To close, customer co-development can be a powerful route to better products, but only when used judiciously. Match involvement intensity to uncertainty, build internal capability to absorb knowledge, maintain governance, and choose partners strategically. Thank you, everyone.